Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Bava Metzia. We are up to Perek Tet Mishnah Chet. Today's Mishnayot should be Le'ilun Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana, Ranbai, Eliyahu ben Mordechai Israelov, Chana ben Miriam, Sason ben Ryan, Yoshua ben Shifra, Menuchatam beGan Eden, Amen. And Avdi ben Chaim lechaim v'derefua shalemav Daniel Shalom ben Rosa betoch Shah Chole Israel, and Achlama Merav Binyamin Or Tzion Chai ben Dvorah. The Mishnah discusses another law that applies to a renter who pays a fixed price of either money or produce. If someone rents a field from his friend for a fixed payment and agrees to plant it with barley, he may not plant it with wheat because wheat weakens the land more than barley does. A sharecropper, though, may plant wheat even if he agreed to plant barley. Since wheat is more valuable than barley, it can be assumed that in the case of a sharecropper where the owner receives a portion of the crop, he allows the farmer to plant wheat even though it weakens the soil because it will provide him with a greater profit. Chitim Izrael, so going back to the Mishnah's case where he's paying a fixed price of either money or produce. However, if he agreed to plant wheat, Chitim Izrael, he may plant it with barley, since that will place less strain on the land. If he had agreed to pay a specific amount of wheat for the rent, he will have to buy wheat from the market to pay the owner. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel oser, but Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel forbids making any change because switching crops from year to year weakens the soil, and therefore any change can weaken the land. A land is weakened if different crops are planted in each year. Therefore, although barley is generally easier on the land than wheat is, barley will harm the field if it had been planted with wheat the year before. Because of this concern, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel rules that the farmer may never change from the agreed upon crop. The Tanna Kama, however, holds that if the owner was concerned about this, he would have specified that the sharecropper may plant only wheat. And the Rav actually tells us that regarding the halacha, everything goes according to the land and according to the place. So a case-by-case basis. A similar law, Tivua lo Yizra'ena kitnit. If a renter agreed to plant grain in the rented field, he may not plant it with beans, because beans weaken the land more than grain does. Kitnit Yizra'ena Tivua. However, if he agreed to plant beans, he may plant it with grain, since that will place less strain on the land. The Mishnah's examples apply to the soil of Eretz Yisrael, as the Gemara says on page 107a in Bava Metzia. As far as other places, depends on the condition of the local soil. The renter may not switch to a crop that will place a greater strain on the soil than the agreed upon crop would have, but he may switch to a crop that will place less of a strain on the soil. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel oser, but Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel forbids making any change because any change can weaken the land. And that is in the Mishnah Chet. Mishnah Tet begins on Kaber Sadeh Mechavro L'Shanim Muatot. If someone rents a field from his friend for a few years, which the commentators explain means less than 7 years, Lo Yizra'ena Pishtan, he may not plant it with flax, because flax weakens the land and it does not return to full strength for 7 years. Since he rented the field for less than 7 years, he will return it in a weaker state than he received it. This law applies only to a renter who pays a fixed price. A sharecropper, though, may plant flax, because flax is valuable, and it can be assumed that in the case of a sharecropper, where the owner receives a portion of the crop, he allows the farmer to plant flax, even though it weakens the soil, because it will provide him with a greater profit. The en lo bekorat shikma. Likewise, he does not have the right to cut beams of wood from a sycamore tree in the field. Now, the Mishnah refers to a case where it was customary for a renter to enjoy the right to take fruit and wood from the trees in the field. If the field contains a sycamore, a type of wild fig tree whose branches were used to make beams, a short-term renter may not cut its branches, because a sycamore tree takes 7 years to grow back fully, and if he cuts its branches, he will not return it in the same state as he received it. This law applies to all types of rentals. However, if he rented the field from him for 7 years, Shana Rishona Yizra'ena Pishtan, during the first year of the rental, he may plant it with flax. V'yesh lo bekorat shikma, he has the right to cut beams from a sycamore tree, because by the time the rental period is over, the field or tree will have returned to its original state. Now, the Mishnah refers to a case where the branches were fully grown when the rental period began. If, for example, the branches had been cut 2 years before the rental period began, the renter can cut beams in the 5th year of the rental, because he will be returning the tree as he got it with 2 years of growth on the branches. And that is the Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.